Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 110 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, writer, actor, and director, Kyle, brunettes are troublemakers, fine.
Please, 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 call me King Fooey. Watch me bounce the world on my ass.
Second, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Ink Studios, Andrew, not everyone is lucky enough to look stupid, Zumwalt.
Yeah, like my little female Jewish Jesse Owens, Jack the Ripper.
Okay, here's the tongue twister. Third, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel, ein bin Puppen, eine Cheese and Crackers withouten Rolls.
Heil Hinkle.
Fourth, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom, our only friends are the Japanese, Haggis.
How you doing, everybody?
Hilarious.
I even went last, so you had that opportunity.
Oh, man, that was great, Tom. I give that 5 stars. All right. How's everyone doing? You guys doing all right?
Oh, super duper, man.
Staying sane?
You know.
Are we good?
Yep. Silence from the nut house.
Silence for the Everyone's checking to make sure they are good. They're checking their temperatures.
Yeah.
All right. Let's poke the monkey, find out who won. Actually,
Who won?
let's not do that.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
That was the shortest episode on record.
That was
See you
super.
next month.
We've talked about limiting the rounds, but wow.
I just want to point out that
Get out of here.
Nazi regime take over the podcast.
Yeah, that was very authoritarian of you, Mike.
Yeah.
you're
Next
welcome.
time.
Not even a
Next time on.
debate. Let's just get to announcing my pre-chosen winner.
Next time on Blink Smack.
Yeah.
All right. Let's find out what we're talking about this month.
Ladies and gentlemen, doppelganger dictators and figment fears, welcome to the main event. Tonight, 2 historical satires seek to be the last film standing. Will the Great Dictator march on to victory? Or will JoJo Rabbit hop out ahead? In the first corner, from 1940, written and directed by Charlie Chaplin. Starring Charlie Chaplin, Paulette Goddard, and Jack Oakey. The Great Dictator! In the second quarter, from 2019, written and directed by Taika Waititi. Starring Roman Griffin Davis, Thomason McKenzie, and Taika Waititi. JoJo Rabbit!
Sorry about that. I want to say that I enjoyed both of these movies immensely, and they both have powerful messages within them, and they deliver them, both deliver them in comedic ways, but they also hit you when you least expect it, like a slap across the face. So I don't want to ruin anything. I'm going to let you guys do the talking. 15-minute rounds, and our first round is writing.
15-minute rounds. Okay, I could get 3 of these rounds in the amount of time that should have been cut from The Great Dictator. Was so slow, boring, and incredibly long. That being said, the premise of the story is interesting. A man who looks like the Fuhrer is basically, I don't want to call it Freaky Friday, but they get place swapped. The problem with that is that it happens over the course of 10 minutes in the last 5% of the movie. And it's so unsatisfying. The rest of the story is really, really a on-the-nose parody takedown of Nazi Germany, which I wholeheartedly agree with the derision and scorn placed upon that. I think it was well done by a man who knew what he was doing. But the narrative structure and the way the movie is put together is an absolute mess, in my opinion. It's also 80 years old, so I have to cut it a little slack. Filmmaking has moved on since then, but I feel like you could redo The Great Dictator and cut 45 minutes out of it and get a much better film. That's just from the structure. When we get to acting, we'll talk about Charlie Chaplin, who really holds up this movie. And is great, but I will say the end speech is amazing in The Great Dictator. If you don't watch any of the other movie, just watch that. But you can kind of see that is exactly what Charlie Chaplin wanted to say. He just had to make 2 hours of another movie to get there. And that, like I said, we'll get to Charlie Chaplin and acting. But let's go to JoJo Rabbit now. Super creative, very funny, incredibly original take on this subject, with very likable characters who do and say sometimes very unlikable things, but you never really hate them. Even though the JoJo in the start of the movie is a fervent Nazi, you don't feel like he's evil, or he's just sort of hapless. And his imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler, for Christ's sake. But at no point does that really turn you off, because it's so incredibly creatively written and put together and structured as a story that I think it drags you along in this world, and you feel okay relating to these people despite where they're living and what's going on. I will say, though, there is in my opinion, a big misstep in the movie, and that is that they have a very sad, defeating moment where JoJo Rabbit's mother is captured. And I feel like that was, in my opinion, did not necessarily need to happen for the movie to have the same gravity and outcome. It just felt like kind of unnecessary heartache at that point.
What? Okay.
Absolutely. I don't think that was necessary, in my opinion. I thought it was a little bit too much. That's just for me. Because he already has a bad life, a missing father, all these other things that he's going through. I think by throwing that on was, I don't know. It just did not work for me. But I'll stop blathering now and turn it over to you guys.
I don't understand how you would do a war movie that takes place during World War II without suffering some kind of loss. It seems like that would be kind of critical to it. Because, you could argue that JoJo is, Nazi Germany, and getting caught up in the fervor of, Adolf's charisma and everything else. And, just like JoJo kind of kicks Hitler out, Germany kind of moves past, this admiration of Hitler.
Sure.
But they lost a lot of people. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought his mom, his mom dying was like, and the way that it was done was really, really well done. And what takes the movie to kind of a whole nother level, because, it's kind of going through like this, almost like a children's story. And, he's sitting there chasing this butterfly, like one of the most innocent things that a kid can do, and the movie just kicks you in the nuts. And I thought it was really great because they're just like, oh yeah, I forgot we're in the middle of World War II and these guys are bastards and they don't care who they hurt. So
I guess that's the way I interpreted it too, is that the whole movie is, JoJo in his fantasy world of this glorious Nazi regime up on a pedestal. Adolf Hitler is my imaginary friend and all the goofy and fun stuff. And he's just a kid. And then the movie reminds you that, hey, in the middle of this, by the way, we're really in the middle of a war. And it took you from the imaginary world of the kid and moved you into, this is what's actually happening around you right now, though. And so I thought that was really powerful in the way that they did that.
And I don't disagree with what you guys are saying. What I mean by that is that there were other ways to show the reality and danger of the situation without being so sad, because the movie is so lighthearted for portions of it, and they do have a moment where they come across a lot of people hung in a town square. I mean, and to me, it just that felt like a gut-wrenching moment that maybe they could have avoided, because it kind of bummed me out in a way that hurt me enjoying some of the rest of the film, because I'm aware of the situation and what's going on. It just, to me, it felt like a little too much. That's just my opinion. I still love the movie.
I will say that, however they came up with the idea to have him actually do the reveal by tying her shoe, though, was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Regardless if you
clever.
like that scene or how you feel about that part of it, the actual reveal, though, that was absolutely brilliant.
It was shocking.
I just want to point out real quick, I watched this movie while my 3-year-old was taking a nap on me.
Wait, does this go against our 15 minutes?
No. And
Okay.
Pause the timer.
It hit me hard, like really hard. And I looked down at him, and it was, that moment. I can see where Kyle's coming from. I agree with him. It was, I agree with Tom too. I mean, it was a kick in the nuts, and it really brought home the reality of what was going on and what you're watching.
And I fully admit that part of me not liking it could be because it did emotionally make me feel upset. And that may be me going, I don't like that. They shouldn't have done that, because it was really effective. I just felt it made me feel bad for the rest of the movie, because I started to wonder, what's JoJo's life like after this? You hope that at least he would still have his mother, even though his father's gone and the country's in war. And it just kind of was like, it just made me feel down bad.
Yeah, Holocaust to do that to you.
And they did a great job then with the movie, because it made you feel something.
Oh, no,
Success.
yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
It made you feel for
I
that
don't
character.
disagree. Yeah. It was. Oh, the way they showed when they showed the shoes, man, that was a very creative and effective way of immediately delivering a lot of emotional information with just the color and shape of a pair of shoes. That's really great filmmaking.
Yeah.
And you're mad at the same time, because Taika the whole time kept focusing on her shoes, and when it happened, you're like, God damn it, I should have seen this coming.
I know. Yeah, I know.
I said, oh, those are nice shoes, man. I like those shoes. And then like 30 minutes later, I'm like, God damn shoes.
Yeah.
But does that also, and I don't know if he was going for this, but I also looked at, they were showing their shoes a lot of the symbolism, because there's a lot of World War II pictures where they just show Holocaust shoes, piles and piles of shoes of the Jews. And so I felt that it was a little bit of a symbolism and callback to that as well. So I thought that was pretty smart. Maybe no one else got that, but I at least thought about it while I was watching it.
Yeah, there definitely was a lot of that symbolism in there.
I think, one of the things, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this too, just, I had to look it up 2 or 3 times, just like when The Great Dictator came out, and I mean, this isn't something that happened, and then 5 or 6 years later, they kind of look back on it and laugh. Like, Chaplin put this out at like the height of Hitler's power, and I just absolutely incredible that he would write a story. I mean, it was just, we weren't in the war yet at this point, and for him to put this out there and kind of show Americans like, hey, this is kind of what's going on over here, and while Hitler is still very, very powerful,
5 minutes.
It's incredibly brave, but at the same time, I just, I can't imagine. I mean, doing like that, because I guess a movie isn't as immediate, because it takes so long for us to make movies now, that it's equivalent to maybe somebody like, Trevor Noah or, a late night comedian host kind of going after the president. This very immediate political commentary, and the fact that Chaplin did it in a feature length movie that's just incredible.
But isn't that kind of like the movie Seth Rogen and what's his name did about the Chinese South Korea or North Korean dictator?
The Interview?
Yeah, The Interview.
James Franco.
Franco, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that was at the height of his power, too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in a way. I mean, I don't think, Kim Jong-il had killed quite as many people as Hitler, and he wasn't,
True.
tromping around Europe and wiping out millions of people at a time, but
true.
But yeah.
I was looking at it as a little bit of a similarity of a movie that was definitely making fun of one of these really bad dictators that was in power at the time the movie came out, I guess.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But yeah, it's absolutely incredible, and I don't know.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of surprising when you watch The Great Dictator that you don't think of it as being made so early in before America was in the war, and that kind of, you see it as some sort of kind of looking back at the events of the war and being critical of it. So
right.
it was really, it really is amazing, because like if you didn't know that, which I didn't immediately know that it was made in 1940, and it is surprising because it's so prescient, and so it really is it really does kind of predict what that regime ends up becoming, and it's pretty amazing, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an interesting commentary. Both of these movies kind of speak to what's going on now, unfortunately, with neo-Nazism for some fucking reason coming back into vogue, and it's just this I think Charlie Chaplin would be a little bit more than disappointed in it, but it is. It's just he had such a crystallized view of what was happening, in Germany at the time, and to put it into a movie like that, it's just, it's quite a feat.
Agreed. Cinna agree.
All right. Are you guys done?
Yeah, sure. I'm good.
Yeah,
You guys
sure.
good? The other three topics, the other three rounds are going to be more interesting, I think.
Okay. I'm just going to use up the 2 minutes that we have left and just say I do admire the amount of research Taika did researching for the film. I want to point out that I believe it said in trivia that all the weapons, all the guns, all the Jeeps, vehicles, and I have a screaming child in the background.
Oh,
He's
no.
getting closer.
He is right outside the door.
It's a warning sign.
He is in his diaper, screaming at the door and laughing. All right. All of it is period authentic. All of it is actual stuff that they used during the war. My only problem is that they showed American troops or Allied troops and Russian troops in the same city. That didn't happen. The U.S. or the Allied forces stopped at the, oh gosh darn it, I forget the name of the river, but they stopped at a river, and Russia pretty much took over most of Germany. And then when everything was signed, the Allied people or the Allied troops moved in. So seeing both of the armies just like blocks apart at certain points, I think was a problem where he might have written himself into a corner, because what the Soviets were doing was just as bad as what the Nazis were doing when they were going through Russia. So when when the Soviets came through Germany, they were doing exactly, or a majority of what the Germans had been doing to them. So when I saw that it was Russian troops, I had this giant knot in my stomach, and I'm like, oh no, this is not going to end well. It's not going to end well at all. But it did. And I can see where maybe that he ran into a problem with that. And that's just my opinion. So anyway, Screaming Kid aside, let's vote. Kyle.
I'm going to vote for JoJo Rabbit.
All right. Andrew.
I'm going to go for the JoJo Rabbit.
Tom.
I think I'm going to go with Great Dictator on this one.
All right. Gabe.
Yeah, I think great, well-rounded characters and just a really compelling story. I'm going to go JoJo Rabbit.
Okay. JoJo Rabbit is based on Christine Luen's novel Caging Skies, a book that Waititi's mom loved before turning him onto it as well. Quote, imaginary Hitler is not in the book, he adds, although the rest of the story's main characters are. Charles Chaplin wrote the entire script in script form, except for the fake German, which was improvised. In addition, he also scripted every movement in the globe dance sequence.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. We'll get into that later, but that's one of my favorite parts.
Most of the
fantastic.
language as well was Esperanto. That they
really
spoke.
with that his fake
really
his fake,
yeah.
Some of it did sound kind of almost Esperanto is a little bit related to Spanish,
Well,
right?
yeah, and he did it because one of the reasons. Well, I don't know if it was one of the reasons, but Esperanto was created by a Jewish scientist, right? I know he was of the Jewish faith. But anyway, there's a possibility that he chose that because of that. You know, he was just kind of
with a few like Wiener Schnitzels and that thrown in.
Yes,
Esperanto was originally designed to be the common language of the world.
The whole world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That everyone would speak it, so there wouldn't be any bias.
Totally going off topic. There are still places like if you know Esperanto, there's a community where you can go and stay in people's homes. They open their homes up to you, and all you do is speak Esperanto.
Huh.
Like it's still alive today. So
William Shatner made a movie completely in Esperanto, and it never got released.
That's right. Okay,
I think I heard about that.
Let's move on to our second round, which is acting.
So I'm going to first start off with Charlie Chaplin. Wonderful actor. He did a lot more in this movie than just act. As we had said before, he wrote and directed. He dances, he sings. He does his traditional Charlie Chaplin, what he was made for, which is his comedic gags and his ability to fall down and his ability to make people love him and laugh and be whimsical and wonderful all at the same time. And it shines in this movie in so many places, in so many ways. So just a phenomenal actor. And he does a fantastic job for what he wanted to create in this. I really also enjoyed Grace Hale. So Grace Hale, the only reason I know her is because she's one of those people that we've talked about, or I don't know, on this podcast, but I've talked about with film students and with other people in film that she was pretty much in every single movie from like 1930 to like 1945 as like an uncredited woman in the background, screamer, person that just is sitting on a bench. And it's amazing that she's in all of these movies. And then here she is in this and actually has lines and acts. And it's just fascinating to me. So there's a little bit of trivia about your Grace Hale. Paulette Garter, just wonderful, beautiful, fun to watch. She was, your damsel in distress, but was never in distress. She always took charge. And at the very beginning when they threw, I think it was the tomatoes and the vegetables, that was like the only time in the movie that she was your traditional, oh, save me. After that, she pretty much was the steed for Charlie Chaplin. Wonderful, wonderful performance out of her. So yeah, those are the ones that super stuck out. I mean, Jack Oakey, I don't even know. I mean, he's a good actor. He's
so good in this.
He's a good side guy to the Charlie. He makes you laugh. I don't even know how to. I mean, he almost steals the show from Charlie in scenes. I mean, I don't know what else to say about. I mean, it's Jack Oakey. Go look up Jack Oakey and see some of his movies. I'm running out of time here. I'm trying to get through everybody. So JoJo Rabbit, Roman, the guy that plays JoJo, fabulous actor. Cute, fun, innocent, hilarious, great job on. I just enjoyed watching him and wondering where he was going to go, and he was just. I believe that he was a child. Like the things he said, the way he acted, it didn't seem like they were trying to give him adult role. He was just a kid. Fabulous. Elsa, fabulous. She's, relatively new in the acting scene. She does fabulous job. Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson. If we can we have a minute?
Acting.
Can we have a minute of silence for Scarlett Johansson? Sam Rockwell, love the man. I don't know if there's anything I've seen him that he has done that I don't like, because I just love Sam Rockwell. I think he's a phenomenal actor, and I love watching him. And he is just, I love Sam Rockwell. Didn't really care for Rebel Wilson in this one. Normally she makes me chuckle. There were a couple lines that were funny, but I'm just like, could have done without her. Sorry, Rebel Wilson. You're a nice gal and you're a great actress sometimes, but this one I was just like, whatever. The last one I want to point out is this poor Yorkie, Archie Yates. That kid, the whole time I felt bad for him, but at the same time I just had to laugh at him.
I love that kid.
And
he was great.
He's just the kid that I want to invite over and just make lunch for and sit down and just watch him and see what happens, because he would just be hilarious. He just is he was a ball to watch in this movie. All the way down to when he shoots that rocket launcher. I think I almost peed my pants. I was just like, oh my God. So anyways, so that's my quick rundown. I want to give you guys time, so there you go.
Great.
It took me less time to write that.
Taika Waititi and everybody in JoJo Rabbit is great. I'm a little bit with you on Rebel Wilson. She doesn't do too much though, so that's okay. But she has some very funny scenes. A lot of people are given very funny material to work with, which is great. Yeah, Yorkie was probably the character I wanted another 10 minutes of, because his high-pitched voice and just the way he acted, it was a joy. But good kid actors will elevate your movie so much, and bad kid actors can crush your movie no matter how well it's written. And they really, really got good kid actors. The lead, JoJo Rabbit, he was amazing. And I don't think he has many credits, but he will now, because I thought he was great.
Yeah.
In the Great Dictator, Charlie Chaplin is obviously a movie icon, a legend. I think the movie suffers a bit from being released at a time when having a star like that propping up your movie was so important to getting people to watch your movie. So he is constantly doing his shtick, which is funny, but he's doing too much of it and for too long sometimes. And I feel like that's an effort of someone saying, we got to give him Charlie Chaplin. You want him to stay till the end, you got to watch Charlie Chaplin do this, so watch Charlie Chaplin do that. His comedic timing is great, amazing, really. When you look back, it's 80 years later. People are still imitating some of the things he does.
Yep.
His comic walking and his action, his rhythm and timing, doing the scenes to music and stuff, all that is brilliant. But sometimes it felt like too much because they're like, look, Charlie Chaplin's in this movie. He's a superstar. Watch him do all these things. And it detracted from the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I think when we did City Lights, I think I mentioned at that time that Charlie Chaplin's body control was phenomenal,
Yes.
which allowed him to do all of that physical humor just flawlessly. It was amazing to just watch him. And then, I think a lot of silent movie stars had a really hard time transitioning to the talkies. And I'm not sure. This is the first time I've seen The Great Dictator, at least in whole, that I remember. And I was a little bit nervous about what it was going to be like to hear Charlie Chaplin. I didn't know, my experience with him was all silent films. And I knew that he relied on his great body control and his physical humor. And so I was a little bit nervous, like, how's this going to go? What's his voice going to sound like? How's he going to deliver his lines? Is he going to be able to pull it off? Well, sure as shit, he did. I had no problem with it all. He made a seamless transition to a talkie, and I thought he did a great job with that part of it too. And that's probably, a result of it, all of his acting, all of his acting experience, just because we didn't hear him, in the movies doesn't mean he wasn't doing voice acting before that, So and speaking of that body control and that scene with the Earth balloon, just fantastic. And that's evidence right there that he can still do that. He doesn't need to say anything. He doesn't need to make any sounds. And he still just pulled off that scene flawlessly. I loved that scene. I just thought it was amazing.
And probably one of the most commonly clipped. I mean, you can find GIFs and everything else of him playing with the world like that.
And JoJo Rabbit, I think you guys have said it. The acting is phenomenal throughout. I'm with you, Andrew. I love Sam Rockwell. He's one of my favorites. When I didn't realize he was in it immediately, and then when I saw him in it, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. He's so good. I love him so much. And he was great. And then I don't know how do you properly pronounce his name? Taika Waititi? How do you pronounce it? Is that how? Do you guys know how it's properly
That's
pronounced?
how I've heard it.
I don't want to massacre it. Him as Adolf Hitler, fantastic,
Hilarious.
He was so awesome. He played that so well. That kind of like insecure, childlike Adolf Hitler thing. It was so good. And like I believe Kyle said, if you can get child actors to do that good of a job in a film, it's a success. Those kids were just fantastic. So a lot of great performances in that movie.
Taika Waititi.
Taika?
Yep. THAI-KAH. Taika Waititi is how you pronounce it.
So, Taika, if you're listening, I apologize if I've massacred your name. You did a fantastic job, and please forgive me.
That's okay.
Yeah, the easiest name to say in the world.
Are you guys done?
What?
Hey, what's going on? Sorry, my mic wasn't on. I made some really good points 5 minutes ago. You weren't listening.
1 minute left.
Yeah, go.
So I agree with a lot of stuff with you guys, what you guys are saying.
4 minutes.
Charlie Chaplin is really great. Shut up. I'm actually just trying to kill time so I don't have to hear any trivia. So I think Chaplin took you a little while to get that one. So I think that yes, Chaplin did a really, really great job. It's interesting to kind of go through his movies and watch how his character. Oh my gosh, I'm trying a complete blank. What they call his character?
The barber.
I mean the classical
Chaplin character. Yeah, that there's touches of that, but it's a much more evolved version of that now.
The tramp. The tramp.
The tramp.
Right?
Thank you.
That's
Oh my
it,
god.
that's it. Mhm.
I was thinking it's a dog. Anyway, he does it. It's interesting to see how it evolved, and as we go through the Chaplin movies and see the different kind of versions of it as he goes through, and Taika Waititi's version of Hitler is really good, but at the same time, it's very much this is through the eyes of a 10-year-old German boy, and there's the one part where he kind of starts going on his rant and, telling Jojo to get his shit together. And he kind of goes into one of those, typical Hitler, speeches with the fist and the pointing. And he does it so very well. I think that the supporting cast around, JoJo Rabbit is really great too. Roman does a wonderful job because he very much reminds me of my son Grover. They both have that very charismatic and the wild hair and just it's really adorable, which kind of made going through the movie an unusual experience. But Sam Rockwell, they do those things on Facebook where they're like, hey, if you're stuck in a situation, who do you want to help you get out? Sam Rockwell's now number one on my list, where I don't care what the last movie I saw was. It's like, Sam Rockwell will get me out of any situation. After seeing 3 Billboards and this and Moon, I'm pretty sure Sam will get me out of any situation. So,
and even if he doesn't, you get to hang out with Sam Rockwell for a while. And that's cool.
Right? Yeah, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. He's fantastic in
Oh
that.
man, I forgot about that. That one's
He's
fantastic.
had so many great movies. And he's also one of those actors that, unlike Will Smith, you know that he really believes in the material that he's doing, and that he put a lot of time into whether or not he wanted to do the movie. Sam Rockwell doesn't really do a lot of bad movies. If Sam Rockwell's name is on the marquee, you know that regardless of where he is in the list, he's you're in for a good time. So yeah, and he's always. To stay on the Sam Rockwell train for a minute, he always is kind of like there's always this kind of Sam Rockwell element to it. But if you think about it, his characters are very different in all of them. They're very well realized and they're very unique. But there's always just this little bit of Sam Rockwell in there that that kind of draws you in.
Moon
is fantastic. I was just looking, at this list.
Yeah, I was going to point out that Roman Griffin Davis, a.k.a. JoJo in the movie, this is his very first film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's great. And like you said before, it won't be his last.
No,
I bet
he's into it, if
probably
he enjoyed it.
All right,
He's probably got 2 or 3 other movies going.
Yep, he has never done anything else but this movie.
Time's up.
I'm just saying.
You guys forgot to mention
Just
Stephen
keep
Merchant,
going.
by the way.
Forgot what?
Yeah,
Stephen
he was
Merchant. He was great too.
Co-writer, co-director of the British Office.
Yep.
He's the tall SS guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did they like exaggerate that, or is he really super tall?
He's
They
6'7".
They exaggerated it as well. He actually stood on an apple box when he was talking with Sam Rockwell.
God, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's 6'7" in real life.
Yeah, he's tall and lanky. All right, Andrew, who are you voting for?
JoJo Rabbit.
Tom.
Yeah, JoJo gets the vote on this one.
Gabe.
Yeah, great ensemble. I have to go with JoJo too.
And Kyle.
JoJo.
Okay, dokie. Here you go, Tom. Charles Chaplin said wearing Heinkel's costume made him feel more aggressive, and those close to him remember him being more difficult to work with on days he was shooting as Heinkel. When Taika Waititi, who is Maori Jewish,
Yep.
was asked why he chose to play the role of Adolf Hitler, he said, quote, "The answer's simple. What better fuck you to the guy?" Unquote.
It's true.
I love that quote a lot.
That's gorgeous.
I had to put it in there. All right.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Let's move on to our third round, which is directing.
So we finished the last round talking about that scene with Sam Rockwell, where he's kind of down and out of the kind of it's the composition of it's really, really funny because the SS guy is, you know, really tall and looking down on Sam Rockwell, and it's hilarious. And there is a lot of use of height and people putting themselves in position of power in JoJo Rabbit, and I think it's interesting because Parasite, I think, which was the movie that won Best Picture over JoJo Rabbit this year, does it better and takes it to a whole different universe. But JoJo Rabbit does a really good job of not letting that stuff go by. That the standing on chairs and up on ledges and in the attic and just kind of the way that Taika uses elevation to get across power is really, really well done. And I feel a little bad because I tell everybody, if you want to see composition and stuff like that, go watch Parasite, because Parasite is a masterclass in film composition. You can spend hours poring over every shot of that movie. But it's funny that a movie like a satirical movie like JoJo Rabbit does that really well too. And so, you know, hats off to Taika for doing that. Great Dictator, on the other hand, is also really well directed. I don't feel like it might have been because that language of film hadn't quite yet been nurtured to the point matured to that point where directors felt that that's a tool in their toolbox, like directors today have. And, because, Great Dictator was being made about the same time as Citizen Kane, which helped bring a lot of those styles into directing. And so I don't want to, knock Charlie Chaplin for not taking advantage of those things, because his direction is really, really great. And he can direct the hell out of a comedic scene and physical comedy. But at the same time, I feel like all of the extra stuff that Taika did to tell his story really is kind of what helped kind of lift the direction to a whole nother level for me. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. You have to give a lot of credit to Charlie Chaplin. And I think Kyle hit on it earlier, that you could take out a large portion of the film and still get the point across. And I think we'll touch on that a little bit maybe in the next round too, on why that might be. But I think one of the things that could have been done with The Great Dictator is to trim some of the scenes and make them a little bit more concise. There are certain ones that do seem to go on too long. And I don't know if that's the fault of necessarily of directing, or if that's an expectation of audiences at that time, or why that might be. But that would be one of my criticisms of The Great Dictator, is that some of the scenes just went on too long. We got the idea in a much shorter amount of time and didn't need any more. Yeah, I think the direction of JoJo Rabbit was really just fantastic. To tell you the truth, this is my first experience with Taika Waititi. Again, I apologize if you're listening for messing up your name.
It's okay.
But I was really impressed, not only with his acting, but also with his direction, because it is really well thought out. The shots are extremely well composed. It's a beautiful movie, and there's not really any wasted time in it.
No,
it gets to the point and gets through the story very concisely. I thought it was really quite amazing. Now, yeah, did he direct anything else that I may have seen? I know he's
Thor Ragnarok.
I've never seen it.
How dare you?
Yeah. What the hell's wrong with you, man?
Really?
I am way behind on the Marvel movies. I'll tell you that.
That's by far the most entertaining one.
Thor Ragnarok is very good. Yeah,
I'll check it out. So that makes me hopeful for the upcoming Star Wars movie that he's attached to, supposedly.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So that makes me hopeful. But the thing that scares me a little bit, though, is that the studio has kind of put the kibosh on people who had a different vision of the Star Wars universe and have tried to make it maybe a little bit funnier, a little bit more unique. And I'm speaking about, Solo.
I think that might have changed after The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You think so?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
and after,
I'm hopeful that they'll let him do his thing, because I have a feeling he'll breathe some much needed new life into the eternal franchise that Star Wars is now. So
yeah, if you want a Star Wars movie that's cut by the book, hire Brett Ratner or someone. He'll do whatever you want. If you want a good movie and you want someone's vision, definitely hire someone like Taika Waititi who will bring his own thing to it. He also co-wrote and co-directed a movie called What We Do in the Shadows, which is hilarious if you've never seen that.
I haven't seen it yet either, but I've seen stuff about the series, and I've been interested in it.
Yeah,
People have told me. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Taika was actually in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I heard that too.
I've still not seen The Mandalorian.
And he actually directed one of the episodes too.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's IG-11.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, I'm going to echo very briefly what Tom said. The shot composition, the choices, the takes and emotions that Taika gets out of his actors and his scenes is masterful. It really is. It shows a mastery of the art form. Because a lot of satires, mockumentaries, anything that's, I don't know if you'd call it parody or parody-like, can really fall apart with those things if you don't take them seriously and treat them seriously. If you make them too wacky, don't put enough attention to detail and care about those little things, it really shows. And so when you're doing a movie like this, which is farcical, fantastical, satire, to keep it so grounded and real, even just the color palettes and everything is just spot on. It feels like a whole complete world movie. The way I talk sometimes about how I love a movie's tone when it's so consistent from start to finish, that's so satisfying to me. The Great Dictator, I give Charlie Chaplin a ton of credit considering he wrote it, acted in it, and directed it. I think I watched the Criterion Collection personally, but I think for a movie made in 1940, it's a beautiful film. The black and white is beautiful. I remember watching the opening of the film where they're going through trenches, and I was just like, wow, this looks great for a movie that's 80 years old. It really is. And some of the gags they do, the upside down airplane gag, they're really funny.
Well, and the barber chair thing.
Yes, man.
It totally reminded me of some of my favorite old Warner Brothers cartoons, or the old Bugs Bunny cartoons. And I'm sure that's where they got it. I'm sure they borrowed it directly from that stuff. Because there's the barber shop things and the chairs going up really high, and I'm like, oh yes. Now I see where they got it.
The Barber of Seville.
Yeah. That's
with the monster.
You could run out of time and effort trying to trace all the gags people have stolen from Charlie Chaplin. I'm sure it is innumerable, the things that people have lifted or drawn inspiration from. But he is a master at some of those things. I mean, really, really talented and skilled. And some of the set pieces, one of the things I love about old films is that a lot of it is big practical sets. And I love the look of grandeur of these huge palace rooms, tall ceilings, ornate, things that I wouldn't necessarily say are missing these days, but it's definitely a throwback, and it's something that I enjoy looking at. But from a composition, putting the movie together, I think the plot is kind of a mess. It's far too long, and I think a lot of the elements are out of order or given the wrong level of importance to tell a better story, just in my opinion, or a more cohesive and functional story. But there are moments in the movie that absolutely shine. The gags are unbelievable. They're so funny. He's so talented in so many ways. The shots he does choose and the performances he gets out of other actors in some scenes are just magical and funny, and they look so much more difficult knowing how long ago it was to do it. You just don't have, I feel like you don't have as many tools or ways to cheat. So yeah, I liked both movies, but JoJo Rabbit is probably one of my favorite movies of 2019 now after having watched it.
5 minutes.
And I think one of the other things that we didn't talk about with JoJo Rabbit is Taika being able to balance and transition between the funny and heartbreaking portions of it. And I've always felt that a lot of great comedies have a little bit of drama to them, and they have a little bit of sadness. And I think that's what draws us into a great comedy, is that there's this humanness to it. While it's funny, we can still relate. And he does an amazing job of balancing that comedy and that heartbreak and that horror all in one, and seamlessly transitioning between the two. I know it was a shock to you, Kyle, and you know, it kind of made you, it brought you out of the experience maybe a little bit, but I thought he did a really good job of balancing those two aspects of that film. I think that's really hard.
I agree he did. I just wonder if maybe you could have had a slightly happier twist on the ending, or something else to shock the audience that wouldn't have been so personally destructive for JoJo. And maybe that's just me being overly sympathetic and thinking like, God damn, that really made my heart hurt when it happened. So maybe it's a bit of wishful thinking on my point even.
Yeah, I kind of thought, been thinking about this since you first mentioned it, Kyle, and I feel like part of it, too, is that I don't think without Rosie dying, I don't really know if for certain that we were convinced that JoJo's going to change. I feel like he almost needs that much of a personal loss to finally break away from it, because so many little kids did not in Germany. And, you know, in the way that he looks up to Hitler so much at the beginning of the movie that without that loss, I don't know if we're convinced that he can make that big of a switch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, his persona of Hitler, because it is a child's view of what he believed Hitler was. It's that goof. Yeah, he's goofy, but I don't know. He doesn't understand the monster that is really happening and the atrocities that this. So all he sees is this almost hero-like friend that he believes is amazing. So I think I think that's an interesting take of how that is portrayed.
I think it's really interesting through the movie as he gets to know the Jewish girl more. The heroics of Adolf Hitler slip and slip and slip more, in his opinion, to the point where he is revealed as being jealous and bitter and insecure. And that is so perfect. The dual arcs of that as he gets to know and falls in love with this girl, and everything that he thinks about Hitler completely falls off. And even his imaginary Hitler becomes a shittier person, a worse friend, becomes more demanding and is jealous and trying to tell him what to do. And it's just so clever.
There's so much imagery in this movie that is just unbelievable. It's so amazing. Real quick, before we run out of time, I want to talk about one thing, and that's do we talk about cinematography here or next one?
This one.
Okay, so some of the shots in JoJo Rabbit, with the cinematography of some of those long shots while they're like riding bikes or they're walking down the streets, are just almost breathtaking. I mean, there's just some beautiful shots made, and I really, really, really hail to the cinematographer of JoJo, because fabulous job, and I hope that he had a little bit of inspiration put into, I want this kind of a shot, and the cinematographer said, I can make that happen, because there are some really, really cool shots. And we've already mentioned the shoes and how there are so many shots from JoJo's perspective where you only see his mother's shoes and you immediately know it's his mother, and that continues out throughout the entire movie, and that was very brilliant as well.
All right.
Okay, sorry.
That's it. Just so you know, the director of photography was Mihai Malamare Jr. He did, let's see, The Master, Walk Among the Tombstones, Sleepless, and quite a few others on here if you want to look him up. All right, let's put it to a vote. Tom?
Can I go last?
Okay, Gabe?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go JoJo again.
Wow. All right, Kyle?
Yeah.
As I've just said, JoJo Rabbit is a near perfect movie to me, but I'm going to give The Great Dictator its due on this for all of the cleverly shot gags, while maintaining good cinematography and capturing a lot of really interesting physical humor.
All right. Andrew?
JoJo Rabbit, hands down.
Tom, you're last.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Great Dictator on this one, I think.
Okay. Taika Waititi doesn't like to give a lot of direction to actors. He says, quote, I don't feel it's necessary if someone knows the words and can say them relatively fast and not maybe feel like they're acting, end quote.
That's awesome.
According to documentaries on the making of the film, Charles Chaplin began to feel more uncomfortable lampooning Adolf Hitler the more he heard of Hitler's actions in Europe. Ultimately, the invasion of France inspired Chaplin to change the ending of his film to include his famous speech.
It's a breathtaking speech.
Yeah, that speech, that makes the movie, in my opinion.
I would agree. All right, let's put it to the fourth round overall.
Nice cover. I'm going to call you out on that bullshit. What was that?
It's called this month's sponsor, Getting to My Head, so just keep going.
Let's put it to the fourth round. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get...
Yeah, let's put it there.
Let's just put it right there.
Yeah, overall, wow.
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
No.
5 minutes left or
Speed round?
Yeah, speed round. Yeah, I think we have covered a lot actually in the other rounds so far. I'm struggling a little bit to know what to kind of add to this round. Sometimes we talk about music. I don't know. Did you guys think any of the music in particular in these stood out?
I thought both of them were fantastic.
Yeah, they were.
And the music for Great Dictator was oh god dang it, who the hell was it? It was somebody really big.
Here,
the music
I'll look it up. You keep talking.
Was it? I want to say Gershwin. No.
Yeah, I thought both fit very well, and maybe
Meredith Wilson and Charlie Chaplin.
Meredith Wilson, the guy that wrote The Music Man.
Yeah, I saw that and I wondered. I didn't look it up, but I wondered, is that who that is?
Yeah.
And is he from Iowa?
Yeah, he's from Mason City.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's cool. That's some kind of cool trivia. Yeah, and I thought the music was great for both of them. Although I'm not sure. It's like certain things. It's like editing. Maybe we could talk about that here. Maybe we should have talked about that in directing. It's like editing or visual effects or sound effects and those kinds of things, when it's done well, I think you should not notice. You should not know. It shouldn't stand out to you when those types of things are done well. And I think a lot of times when we call out certain things like that for awards, it's because we noticed. And oh, well, if it stood out, then maybe, because I feel like editing and sound and music and those kinds of things should make the movie experience seamless. And I think maybe that's why I didn't notice the music, because it fit so well. It didn't really stand out to me necessarily. Now, that being said, I don't know, you could make an argument for someone like John Williams, and where a great score really stands out and adds to the movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, E.T., whatever, those kinds of things. But I don't know. I didn't know if you guys had any strong opinions on the music.
I love both of them. I bought the JoJo Rabbit on vinyl so I could listen to it often. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
It was on sale. I think so. We don't talk a lot about costumes, but I thought the costumes for JoJo Rabbit were really amazing. That's not something I usually notice, but throughout the entire thing was really, really well done. One of the things that came up in our house is that JoJo Rabbit's PG-13, and we have a 13-year-old in our house, and so my wife and I have gone back and forth on, do we let him watch this? We just landed on that. No, we're not going to let him watch this, because his information that he has about Hitler is limited to what they're teaching at school, not really getting the breadth that are I don't think anybody should watch JoJo Rabbit until they've seen Schindler's List first, or something along those lines that really kind of, you really need to know the serious side to appreciate the satirical side. I don't want someone's first, idea of what Hitler was like to be Charlie Chaplin or Taika Waititi,
Yeah, oh, what a funny guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't be charmed by him in any way. He was not like this person.
Right. This is meant to make fun of him, not to glorify him in any way.
Right. And
I think in. Oh,
go ahead. Well, I was going to say.
I was just.
So that I know that JoJo Rabbit is polarizing. It was my favorite movie of last year, and I totally appreciate that there's people out there that find no humor in it whatsoever, that their families were, decimated by this man, and they'll never be able to laugh at it. And I appreciate that, and I understand that. So by that means I want to keep Hitler, taking Hitler seriously, but at the same time, there's some catharsis in being able to laugh at him. So I don't want to be insensitive to those people, but this is where I am growing up as a Euro white Christian in the Midwest of the United States. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. They both present different versions of who Hitler was. But both with derision, obviously. But in The Great Dictator, he's seen as someone who's very ignorant, selfish, takes advice from other bad ministers and uses people to achieve his ends. So I think that while they treat him with a comic take to bring him down, they also do present that he's someone who's using and evil and treating people wrong, and when you read the real history outside of the stuff, obviously he's a monster and everything that he's done. But in JoJo Rabbit, it's almost like it's like revealing that person who you thought was your friend is really an asshole underneath, because it just starts to fall apart and all the worst parts of his personality start coming out. And to me, that's an interesting narrative, because I could see the story of people falling in love with him because of what he wanted to do for the nation, and then slowly realizing how evil and bad things were, and it's like the veil gets lifted back. So I think that's sort of played out in the arc of that character in the movie too, which I think is really interesting. And tonally, I'm a big believer on a movie's consistent tone. JoJo Rabbit, despite all the crazy stuff that happens in it, feels like a seamless world, even though it's nutty at times, and obviously there's an imaginary Hitler. The costuming you were talking about, my favorite bit is when they're collecting scrap metal for the war effort, and they are all dressed like boxy robots, pulling around wagons. Holy shit! I choked laughing because they just cut to it, and there's these kids trying not to fall. They're dropping metal everywhere. Oh my god, it was so funny. Taika Waititi has an amazing eye for comedic timing. And if you ever do watch any of his other movies, I think you'll see that too.
I was also going to point out the costume that Sam Rockwell's character builds for him.
Holy shit, that's
with
great.
The cape, and he has like
so funny.
The pillage on top of the helmet, and he's got like the studs on the side. Oh my god! When he walks out, and I'm like, they actually made it for him.
This brings up a great point to me. This movie is so goofy that you can never quite tell whether someone is saying, "Yeah, so I'm going to build this suit with all this shit on there and red and pink streamers and green eyelashes." You don't know if he's screwing around with the kids, or if that's a real idea of his, and then he shows up in the end, and you laugh. Like there's this uncertainty to a lot of the setups. You don't know if this guy's just messing with the kid, or if he's really doing it, because it looks like a child drew it. And so then he shows up in the outfit, and oh my god, I bust out laughing. It's so funny.
Another brilliant Sam Rockwell moment.
He is great, an American treasure.
I want to bring up something real quick. You guys haven't talked about it, and it's the moment where they find the girl in the house. And I've read a lot of stuff that I tend to agree with. That Sam Rockwell lets him go, like covers for them, simply because number one, he is a regular German officer. He's not really a true blue Nazi, and he's seen what Hitler is bringing to his country, so he's already lost his belief in that, and also that he and Theon Greyjoy are actually lovers, and so he knows what is happening to not only the Jews but gypsies, homosexuals, people with mental disorders, physical disorders. He knows what's happening, and so he actually covers for her.
That's really interesting.
And I think
he's
that
fully
is
disillusioned.
Great. Yes, he's
Even
totally disillusioned, and that's why he's got. Yes,
because
the beginning is great.
He's like, yeah, they put me on this shit job taking care of you, little brats.
Yeah.
Well, I should be out there fighting the war, which we're losing, but apparently everything is going great and victory is imminent.
Yes.
Right.
It's just, he's completely disillusioned with it.
And I don't know if you guys talked about Thomasin McKenzie.
Thomasin McKenzie.
Yeah, and she was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So anyway,
sometimes it's hard when a movie has nothing but good performances. It's hard to single out, and you feel like some people get left out of the praise. But really, everyone in JoJo Rabbit is great.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone.
Yeah. Great performances all around, for sure. And, we touched briefly on the production design, too, of these movies. And I think for both of these movies, the production design is fantastic. And I think that The Great Dictator stands out in particular, because they did, like you guys mentioned, have to do all of this stuff in a very practical sense. My assumption is for that opening shot, they actually built trenches and put up barbed wire or something that looked like barbed wire. And at first I was like, oh my God, is this going to be a continuous take over the whole trench system back to the, back to the Big Bertha or whatever they called that, the gun. There were a few kind of fades in there. It wasn't a single take, but it was still a really impressive shot and setup. And then I think Kyle was mentioning the palaces and that kind of thing. Sure, it probably wasn't an actual palace, but they built a lot of it. These great big grand rooms with huge doors and ornate decorations, and it just it was. I was repeatedly amazed at what they did and how much time and effort and money they spent on those kinds of things. And I'm guessing the little Jewish ghetto was also a set. Mm-hmm. They built that set or sets for that piece. And you think about that. We do, as modern filmmakers, we have lots of ways to make that easier. Or somebody said earlier, to cheat on that stuff. And sometimes it does feel like cheating. Like if you take those shortcuts, it feels like cheating because you can, I think, modern, savvy moviegoers can tell when you're cheating. They can see it. They know that's a set extension that's done with visual effects, and that's not really there.
But sometimes you don't have any choice.
No, sometimes you don't. And sometimes it's done well. The flip side is that sometimes that can work really well. I think of maybe Gladiator, where they built part of the Colosseum.
2 minutes.
And then they extended it beyond that. Sure. And one that always pissed me off when I found out was Tom Hanks stranded on the island.
Castaway.
I couldn't think of the name. I don't know why. I knew the movie, but I couldn't think of the name because I'm old and senile. There's a scene where he goes up to the top of that hill or the top of that mountain and looks out over the ocean, and I'm like, oh my God, that's beautiful. Where did they shoot that? It was fake.
They shot it in the Virgin Islands on a small little inlet, and he wasn't actually on an island.
I know. And that's disappointing because you think that's one of those moments where it looked very real. But I have to give a lot of credit to The Great Dictator for that kind of production design and that much effort into those things. And the budget, I can't imagine how did he get that made at that time? Wartime? Or near wartime?
He was chaplain, so, I mean, he kind of built up stock, I bet.
Yeah, that was amazing. That part of it was really fantastic.
He had a reputation for bringing cash in, so.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that big gun. And the anti-aircraft gun that he rode around on.
Yeah.
Stuff, it's like, they built that. He actually did that. It was semi-functional.
You can actually watch The Great Dictator completely in Esperanto. There is a full Esperanto cut of the movie.
Interesting.
All right. Time's up. Put it to a vote, Gabe.
I think I'm gonna go JoJo Rabbit again.
Kyle.
Yeah, JoJo Rabbit's my vote.
Andrew.
I would say that both of these movies are fantastic for their own piece, but JoJo Rabbit was just amazing and almost a perfect film. And it just, even the time gap, JoJo Rabbit just tops both of these, hands down.
All right, Tom.
God, I don't want to do this. I don't know. I think I'm going to vote for what I think is the better movie because I think there are flaws in JoJo, so I'm going to vote for The Great Dictator. I think it's the one we're going to be talking about 100 years from now more than JoJo Rabbit, unfortunately, because I love JoJo Rabbit so much. But if I was totally honest myself, Great Dictator is really the one that's going to endure. So.
All right.
I want to point out that one of the filming locations for The Great Dictator was Chaplin Studios, so I'm guessing that made it a little cheaper.
Although
he didn't overcharge himself.
He probably didn't know.
No.
Sorry.
Thanks, Gabe.
Mm-hmm.
Ruined everything.
I know.
I'm not playing anymore. No. Although The Great Dictator was.
Does anybody know where Chaplin Studios was located? Or
I've actually been there. I've
do.
actually been there.
Is
It's where Jim
Hollywood.
Henson Studios was.
Yeah.
Or
Oh.
is.
Well, this was just an attempt to derail you. I didn't actually want an answer.
Oh.
But thanks.
Yeah, why didn't he catch that?
Although the Great Dictator, Jesus, now I can't even talk. Although the Great Dictator,
Good job, Kyle.
the Great Tater was banned in all occupied countries by the Nazis, it was screened once to a German audience. In the occupied Balkans, members of a resistance group switched the reels in a military cinema and replaced a comedic opera with a copy of this film, which they had smuggled in from Greece.
When
So a group of German soldiers enjoyed a screening of this film until they realized what it was. Some left the cinema, and some were reported to have fired shots at the screen. Curiosity got the best of Hitler, and he had a print brought in through Portugal. History records that he screened it twice in private, but history did not record his reaction to the film. Charles Chaplin said, quote, "I'd give anything to know what he thought of it," unquote. For political reasons in Germany, the ban stayed after the end of World War II until 1958. Italy did not get the original cut of the film until 2002.
What? Really?
Yes.
They did kind of make fun of Italy a little bit in there too. Yeah.
main-
Rightfully so.
The
Wait,
main
well, I
the main
wanna know
reason the main reason they banned it in Italy was to not upset Mussolini's wife. Apparently.
I actually want to know what the cut looked like. Like, how much did they cut?
I think there was more trivia in there. You can find it.
Huh.
Of what
Maybe
they
I
cut
want to
out.
see that cut. Maybe the movie's better. Sorry.
The uniforms Hitler wears throughout the movie are consistent chronologically. So before I start this, I want to point out Kyle keeps talking about this, and I find it funny because I kind of latched onto it as well. The uniforms Hitler wears throughout the movie are consistent chronologically with his life in power, and also reflect how JoJo changes his opinion of him, which also serves as a reflection of the Germans' increasing disenchantment. At the beginning, he is wearing the SA Brown Shirts uniform, worn during his rise to power, and JoJo idolizes him. He next appears in the official NSDAP uniform, which he wore after becoming chancellor. By this point, JoJo's idolization has become wild fanaticism. In the end, he appears wearing the field gray wartime uniform, and his last scene, when JoJo openly rejects him, he is wearing the gray tunic Hitler wore in his final public appearance before committing suicide.
Wow. Talk about some research to make a damn good flick.
Exactly. Yeah.
And putting in details like that an average viewer probably would never notice.
Right. Well, and it kept. I was like,
I find that fantastic.
I was like, that uniform. Wait, that's his. And then when he kicks him out, I'm like, oh shit, that looks like what he was wearing, like in some of those older films that I've seen him in. And yeah, it's crazy.
Huh.
Absolutely crazy. Real quick, do you guys know what Russian soldiers called the the kids and the old men that were defending Germany as the Russians were pouring into Germany at the end of World War II?
No.
They called them the casseroles, because they were made of what was it? Old meat and green vegetables.
Oh,
Wow.
That's really sad.
Yeah. So watching that movie, like, there was just tons of stuff that I've learned just flowing back into me. I'm like, holy crap, he really did a lot of research for this movie.
Good.
Or someone did.
It
Someone
shows.
did. Yeah. All right, let's move on to recommendations for this month. We will start it off with Kyle.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Just making
yes.
sure. Okay. So I think I might have already recommended the movie What We Do in the Shadows, but I would like to recommend the TV show What We Do in the Shadows, because it feels almost exactly like the movie, and that is not a bad thing. It is absolutely hilarious. I'm current with it now. It's in its second season. And one of the characters, well, there are some, I don't want to give any spoilers, but in the movie version, Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement are the stars of the documentary. And they do make a cameo appearance in the TV show, but the TV show focuses on three vampires who are living together in a mansion with one of their familiars who goes out during the day and takes care of all the boring stuff they would have to do. And they also live with a psychic vampire who feeds by boring people and annoying them. And it's a wonderful show. It's so funny and clever and creative. But I want to give a shout out. I got to make sure I get this guy's name right. There's an actor in it. His name is Matt Berry. He plays a character named Laszlo. You might have seen him if you've ever seen The IT Crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Or Toast of London. I believe he was also in Moon. That's showing on his IMDb. But he is absolutely hilarious in the movie as Laszlo, or in the show as Laszlo. So if you get a chance, watch it. It is great. I've not seen a bad episode yet.
Okay. I've been wanting to watch it. Thanks, Kyle. Andrew.
So I'm going to stick with the World War II theme. And I'm going to go with a little bit of an older movie. It's about 20 years old. It has some pretty good acting in it. But what makes this movie is the way that it's shot, because it's very close. It is on location, per se. So you feel like you are actually with the characters the entire movie. And the sound editing of this movie, you have to watch it in surround sound, is so eerie. It makes you feel like you're actually sitting on a submarine. And that movie is U-571. And if you haven't seen it, it is fantastic for the immersion of the film. It's a traditional submarine movie. It's all about a bunch of Americans who are disguised as Germans, and they try to take over a U-boat so they can steal the Enigma machine. And it's action-packed. It's exciting. But, man, the visuals, the shooting, and the sound effects are what made that movie just super powerful. So I highly recommend U-571.
I enjoy that movie. Bon Jovi's in it.
Yes, Bon Jovi is it. I mean, the more popular is Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton.
No, Bon Jovi.
But Bon Jovi is
and
in the movie.
Harvey Keitel, right? Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, Harvey Keitel is. He's the CPO.
Yep. Good movie. Tom.
So I'm not going to recommend a movie. I wanted to recommend a podcast. So all the directors and actors we talked about today, there's so many great recommendations, but I came across this podcast that actually started up since our last recording, and they're already 9 episodes in, so you got to get on it if you want to start listening to it. But it's called Team Deakins.
Yes.
And it's cinematographer Roger Deakins and his wife James, who is a script supervisor, work together on movies. And it's they go through they talk about how the beginnings, how they got into it, and then there's specific episodes where they talk about practical lighting and lens choices and the work they've done on animated films. And so if you don't know Roger Deakins, you know his work. He's one of the best cinematographers in the world. He shot definitely some of the most beautiful movies out there, and he's a frequent collaborator with the Coen brothers, if you know them. So when it comes to cinematography, there's really no better instructor. And this is a free podcast, and they talk at length about the process of cinematography, which I enjoy listening to very much. And so it's called Team Deakins. Like I said, they're 9 episodes in, and they've only been doing it for 3 weeks. So they're kicking a lot of content out. And so after you listen to Cinesmack, you can go over and listen to Team Deakins.
Preach it, brother. I get a hallelujah.
Have you guys listened to it? Have you guys listened to it at all?
I haven't had the chance yet.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, it's so good. It is so freaking good. And they get into the weeds. I mean, they talk about color processing, and I sound like a total nerd when I'm talking about this, but they talk about interactions with directors on the set and how they choose scripts, and it's absolutely fantastic. So
Yeah, I've
Cool.
got it downloaded. I have all the episodes, the latest episodes downloaded. I'm trying to get through this audiobook that I have.
Oh, did he do an audiobook?
No, different audiobook. But I'm
Well, then I don't know the problem. What's the problem?
I was like, Tom got all excited. He has a book.
He
He
has
has
a
an
book.
audiobook. He has a book. Wait, where's his book?
I was trying to be more accusatory than shocked, but yeah. Why are you making Roger wait, Mike?
he can wait. Gabe,
I'm going to recommend.
that's nice, Gabe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to recommend a movie called The General. Why?
That's
Why, you might ask?
Yikes.
Because it's also a war movie. It's made by a silent film era star, Buster Keaton. It's really pretty awesome. They're actually, it is really considering what they do in that movie. It's pretty fantastic. That he's basically risking his life half the time, jumping on and off of trains and running around, falling off of things, and some of the things they do, blowing up bridges and shit. It's like, oh, that's pretty amazing what they're doing there, because they're really doing that. They're really crashing this damn train, I think. And the other reason is, well, I screwed up. I made a mistake. I watched The General instead of The Great Dictator in preparation for this episode. So it's one of the few movies I've had an opportunity to watch recently too.
And it's coming up in a couple months.
And final reason is we're gonna actually do it. It was already on the schedule, so you should watch it in preparation for an upcoming episode that we're gonna do. So that's my recommendation this month.
All right. Thanks, Gabe. That floored me, man. That was great. I'm going to stick with making fun of Nazis because I like that. I think it's great. I think everyone should make fun of Nazis as much as they can. And my
This
choice...
podcast does not support, nor does it go against the Nazis.
No, it definitely
okay
goes
if it's
against.
against.
It definitely goes against.
Yeah, I'm totally against again.
Yeah.
The movie is from 1967. It's directed by one of our favorite directors, Mel Brooks. It stars Zero Mostel, Gene Wilder, and Dick Shawn. It's The Producers.
Yeah.
And if you haven't watched this movie, where have you been? Have you been living under a rock? Because that's wrong. They actually show this under a rock. So you had to have seen it. It is absolutely hysterical. I love it. Especially every once in a while, I get the musical number from the play stuck in my head, and I'm walking around the house singing it. And my wife is like, maybe not with the 3-year-old, maybe not. But check out The Producers. It is absolutely fantastic.
Agreed.
Sweet.
Okay. Let's find out who won.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is JoJo Rabbit!
Yeah, I think that's a little bit unfair.
It is.
Because The Great Dictator is actually really a great movie. And I think it's unjustly kind of lopsided, but
Do you
JoJo
wanna
Rabbit
change
is also
some of your votes, Gabe?
no,
Okay.
no. But I think a lot of those votes, are probably closer than what that score makes it seem.
Yeah, it was not always an easy, clear-cut decision.
No, it's not.
No. I feel badly. I'm sorry, Charlie.
Okay.
I still love you, Charlie Chaplin. You're an amazing actor. I still love you.
Where can people find you? Maybe put up some propaganda posters on your house. Kyle.
Well, it's interesting, Gabe. You mentioned Buster Keaton. I run his Brothers Porn Parody Twitter, Buster Hyman. So you can find me there, and you can find me. I'm still taking bookings at Jerk Sitting until they ease social distancing restrictions. We still got to do it with the long belt, or I need some kind of long knife to cut you down. And Tyrannosaurus Sex, if you're interested in watching the Jurassic Park movies, while we get a little kinky. I will not watch the original, only 2, 3, and then the second of the new ones. I didn't care for the first one.
Andrew.
Wow.
Okay. Can I apologize to all my friends and family again? Because usually when we get done, I send emails out and I apologize for Kyle. And then can I just do it now?
No.
Okay.
Andrew.
Well, you can easily. You have to go last from now on, Kyle. You can easily go out to ArizonaInkStudios.com. That's Arizona Inc. INK Studios.com. And you can find out all of our films, all of our projects and stuff that we can go on, links actually to this podcast and all of our social media. So, yeah, it's all there.
All right.
Ready to go, to be consumed.
Thanks, Andrew. Tom, now you may apologize.
I am sorry to my friends and family who enjoy the show and got so close to the finish line before turning it off. Those of you still listening. So
if you want to get me names and addresses, I'll send condolence cards or
You know what?
Along with his
condolence
business cards.
I got a condolence card from you once, and I still have not yet seen that mailman. He quit out of the stress. I think so. Anyway, yeah, people
Kyle's
can.
basement.
It might be. He's still washing his hands, and that was before the pandemic. So people can find me I'm on Facebook, but I don't really go on there too much anymore. I have switched over to Twitter, which I have found to be the most fun you can possibly have. I absolutely love being on Twitter.
Really?
And I really do. John C. McGinley liked something I wrote today, so I'm in a good mood, and I love Twitter. And so I'm over on Twitter. If people want to find me at The Real Tom Haggis. I'm just kind of getting a jump in case people start stealing my identity. So you can find me over there.
Gabe.
Yeah, you can find our films on onegenomeshort.com, and you can look me up on Facebook, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'll follow Tom and switch over to Twitter.
Twitter's so fun. I love it.
I
don't know.
dislike all social apps anymore. Yeah.
It's kind of ironic that they're called social media anymore. It seems so antisocial anymore. But
all right. Just real quick, you can find this podcast now on iHeartRadio. We got confirmation today, actually, that we are now on their service. So if you have iHeartRadio, make sure you like us. The boys and I would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use, or on iHeartRadio. It helps us reach new listeners. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. For June, we head east and west as Yojimbo and a Fistful of Dollars meet at high noon. For Kyle, Andrew, Gabe, Tom, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
The Russians, Chocho, they're coming. And the Americans from the other way. And England, and China, and Africa, and India. The whole world is coming. Help me with this ammo. And how are we doing? Terribly. I'm only friends with the Japanese, and just between you and me, they don't look very Aryan.
This has been a test of the Southsiders Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsiders Studios.